In the state of Washington, we had an interesting situation in regards to getting money out of politics. Now, there's a lot of good progressives in Washington, and Wolf-PAC has been fighting to get a resolution to get an amendment, of course, to end the reign of big money controlling our politics. And good news is that we passed the House in Washington all the way 2 years ago. The bad news was that the Republicans controlled the Senate in Washington, and so they wouldn't even allow our vote up for allow our resolution up for a vote. The reason is it would win because Republicans do vote for our resolution. They do it in a lot of different states, and it goes state by state. Sometimes Republicans are even more supportive than Democrats, especially lately, because both Republican and Democratic voters realize that the system is rigged. It's rigged on behalf of who? On behalf of the people paying the politicians. It's the most obvious thing in the world. That's why 93% of Americans say that politicians represent their donors and not their voters. It's much more true on the national scale, and then sometimes it happens in the states. Oftentimes we get passed, and that's why we passed in 5 states. So now that brings me to a story that should be very good news. So the Republicans held on to the Washington Senate by only 1 seat, and then there was a special election. Well, everybody jumped in. It wasn't just us, to be fair, and we're fair and honest about that. But Wolf-PAC also jumped in and wanted to help out, and they did. So they gave money. They're a PAC. They're allowed to do that. If you don't want Wolf-PAC to give money to somebody in a race, get money out of politics. So great way to stop us. Agree to get all the money out of politics, and that would be wonderful. But if you don't, we could come for you, and I'll talk about that in a second too. But we could also help. There's carrots and sticks, very practical. So in this case, we helped Manka Dhingra, and not just with money, but also canvassing. And the Democrats earlier had said, "Oh man, if we are in office and we have the majority, getting money out of politics is a really important priority." Good news, Manka Dhingra won. The Democrats now have the Senate in Washington, and guess what they did? Nothing. All of a sudden, no vote in the Senate. There's no vote under the Republicans. Now there's no vote under the Democrats. They tell us, oh no, wait another year, and then maybe another year after that, and then another year after that. But wait a minute, I thought if we helped and Democrats got into power, they were supposed to take action. But yet, Democrats are in power. We helped to make that happen. A lot of you guys volunteered for that, and you worked on it. And of course, as with all the Democrats, not all, but a lot, unfortunately, no action at all. So we're tired of waiting, and we're tired of the Democratic Party with their false promises over and over and over again. Look, in another video, I gave credit to the Senate leader there among the Democrats, Sharon Nelson. I am now withdrawing that credit because we got no vote, empty promises. So look, it's easy for a politician to say, oh, thanks for all the help and thanks for all your volunteers' hard work on this issue. But we'll do it next year, we promise, sure. How many states have we heard that in? So if the Democratic Party is unsure as to why their voters have lost faith with them and not sure that they're going to deliver, it's stuff like this. So you might wonder, why not? Why not do it? I mean, this is the most popular issue, not just on the Democratic side, which it is, overwhelmingly so, but the most popular issue in the country. Who's for keeping big money in politics? Well, there is a bit of a literal answer to that. It's some Washington groups who pretend to be progressive. So as usual, Common Cause sent their lobbyists. They did it in New Mexico recently too. They say terrible things about the young Turks. Oh my God, they want change. And their fans are really excited. And they got all these young people who are pushing and pushing to get money out of politics. Goddamn right we are. And so they don't want that. They don't want that, and they use excuse after excuse after excuse. So apparently the people in Washington fell for it, or they never want to change in the first place. I don't know which it is for the Democrats, but they're going to have to make up their mind on that. So what does Common Cause and all the people against change say? Say, oh my God, don't do a convention. oh my God, if you do a convention to get money out of politics, that's really dangerous. Why is it dangerous? Okay, well, their two main arguments are, my God, if you counted all the convention calls together, then the Republicans could have an open convention where anything could happen, and the Republicans can propose their own things. Now, this is an unmitigated lie. Now, some people believe it and they don't know that it's a lie. That's okay. Look, I've been ignorant on a lot of issues and I've learned. So I'm going to tell you what the reality here is. But if you hear anyone telling you this talking point, they're either a paid liar and lobbyists for these groups that are against change, or they just don't know, so you could let them know. Right now, there's 70 calls for a convention that Congress has counted. If it could be an open convention on any issue, they'd count the 70, and here I'll do math for you. In order to get a convention, you need 2/3 of the states to call for a convention. That's in the Article 5 of the Constitution. Well, okay, 2/3 of the states is 34 states. We have double that number. Now, why 70? There's only 50 states. Because several states have asked for different conventions. Now, if it was an open convention, why would they have to ask for different conventions? If it was an open convention, they'd count 34 out of the 70 and they'd be done with it. Oh my God, what if they use the convention to get money out of politics and they count it with the conservative conventions to launch a conservative convention? Well, they don't need us. Right now, there's 29 calls for a balanced budget amendment, which is conservative. There's 29 calls for a convention of the states, which is conservative. They can just count those two together, that's 41. They don't need us at all. So anyone who tells you that getting money out of politics convention is somehow going to help conservatives in their secret plan to do an open convention is either ignorant or they're lying on purpose. It's not true. There's no one that can make the counter argument because those things they're sitting in Congress right now. They could act on it tomorrow. It's just not true. Okay, I have almost every expert in the field on our side. There's people that are fear-mongering, pretending to be experts. Oh, I'm a professor somewhere. Okay, is this my expertise? Have I studied it? Can I quote anything for you? No, but I'm a professor and I'm so scared of a Republican convention. All right, I'll get to one other lie in a second, but I want to be clear about this. Let me quote to you the US Department of Justice Office of Legal Policy in a report titled Limited Constitutional Conventions under Article 5 of the United States Constitution said, this paper concludes that Article 5 permits the states to apply for and Congress to call a constitutional convention for limited purposes, and that a variety of practical means to enforce such limitations are available. So that is reality. That is the US Department of Justice. Let me quote the former Attorney General of the United States, Griffin Bell. I think the convention can be limited. The fact is that the majority of the scholars in America share my view. Now, finally, let me quote, and by the way, the American Bar Association also agrees. The Congressional Research Service also agrees. Now, let me quote the United States Senate Judiciary Committee in a report they gave about this a long time ago, back in 1984. This has been clear as day for all this time, but people still make up facts about it. So here's what the Judiciary Committee actually said. This is Congress, so what they say matters in this case. The framers did not provide an unchecked grant of power to a convention. Every amendment proposed would be subject to the same conditions faced by those proposed by Congress. The notion of a runaway convention succeeding in amending the Constitution in a manner opposed by the American people is not merely remote, it is impossible. So that is lie number one. When they talk about runaway conventions and oh my God, they could call an open one for 1,000 different topics and they're gonna have the lizard people rule us and they're gonna outlaw abortion and all this nonsense. It is fantasy, it is not true. By the way, if they want a convention on one particular issue, they can get 34 states. That's in the Constitution, there's nothing we can do about that. But that is not our convention. Our convention is a nonpartisan one for Republicans and Democrats who care about our rigged system and who don't want it rigged on behalf of the donors. So what do some so-called progressives want? Unilateral disarmament. So let the Republicans do any convention they like, but progressives, don't act, be cool, just sit on the couch. They are agents of non-change, of the status quo. All right, there's one other authority I'd like to quote for you, because apparently these people don't know how the Constitution works. That authority is the Constitution itself. I'm going to read you Article 5 of the Constitution because it involves the second step here. The Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution, or on the application of the legislatures of 2/3 of the several states, shall call a convention for proposing amendments. So in other words, you can either have 2/3 of Congress or 2/3 of the states. Wolf-PAC is trying for 2/3 of the states to call for a convention to propose amendments. Now let me pick it up again. Which in either case shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution when ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states. So the second line is they say, oh, once you go to a convention, even if it's a limited convention, then magically they could rewrite the entire Constitution. That is simply not true. Article 5 tells you a convention is only to propose amendments. All this fight over just a simple mechanism to propose amendments. Then those amendments that are proposed out of a convention must be ratified by 3/4 of the states. Anyone who tells you otherwise is deeply ignorant or hasn't read a word of the Constitution, and certainly not Article 5, or perhaps is lying to you on purpose because their groups are funded by people who like the status quo. Fight for change, wolf-pac.com/go, be involved. But you know what, one other thing, here, let me launch a campaign right now because I'm tired of these people, of the common causes of the world pretending to be progressive. They have on their website that they care about money in politics. When they go around and send their lobbyists to state after state saying whatever you do, don't do a convention because that might actually get money out of politics. Oh, I mean, I'm concerned about a Republican convention, which has nothing to do with this. Anyway, you know what, legislators, we've given a lot of carrots, it's time for sticks. So wolf-pac.com/stick. Sometimes we help politicians and hope that they do the right thing and get money out of politics. And sometimes that has worked and sometimes it hasn't. So let us also try the opposite. Go to that URL, donate to a fund that we're creating to just do sticks. We look, all your donations go to all these wonderful staffers organizing all the volunteers that are fighting in all these different states. But now let us also spend some money making sure that politicians who oppose us are no longer in office. Let's go give them another job, but not this job. So if you oppose Wolf-PAC and you want to keep money in politics, there ought to be consequences. So let's make sure we deliver those political consequences for them. wolf-pac.com/stick. Let's go make that happen, okay? You know what they will do.